I just wanted to get that out of the way. Whenever that song plays, Kevin, do you get emotional like Razorback fans do? Just because everyone, that was your walkout song, man. That's what people correlate that song with, is Kevin Kopps. Does that make you feel a certain way?
Yeah, it does. I don't. Some people know this. When I got my Spotify Unwrapped that year, it said I listened to that song about 900 times. So that has some special memories for me. I actually went away from using it as a walkout. I went back to it again this year, and it's been good to me.
Yeah. So why that song of all the songs? I mean, I don't know how it works with when you're at Arkansas, if they just give you a list of songs you can choose from, or you get to choose whatever you want. But of all the songs, why Heat Waves?
Um, I had never heard it before, and I was like thinking about what to do, and I felt like the cops. I really enjoy when the fans do the call the cops stuff. But when I used it as a walkout song, I felt like it was distracting to me. Just like I felt like the mustache when I did like the little cops mustache. I felt like that was almost distracting to me. So I was looking for a new one, and uh, one of my buddies played Heat Waves in the car, and I was going through kind of a hard time in my life, and that song just kind of spoke to me, and I just liked it and was worried about using it, a little scared about using it, and then I actually used Paint It Black the first time I came out that year, and then I guess I got the courage to use Heat Waves, and just it was after that it was history.
Well, it certainly is history, because listen, I'm not going to be that guy, but I am going to be that guy. There are so many songs that, not to say that everyone uses the same one, but there's ones that get replayed. Like if I had a nickel for every time I heard Still DRE by Dr. Dre, as a walkout song, but it's like that song just came in at that moment, and it was meaningful. And I think anytime I have friends of mine, they'll send me a picture if it's on Sirius XM radio, because they know it's like, here it is. This is Kevin Kopps. This is Kevin Kopps' song. So, but I want to get into, of course, when you played here, but just talk to us about how pro life has been treating you. I know it's been a few years since you left the University of Arkansas. I know a lot of Razorback fans keep up with your pro career as much as possible, but just talk to us about how the journey's gone so far and how everything's going right now.
It's been good. I think there's some learning curves. It seems like it's cool. It's like every level is like it's all baseball, but it almost feels like a different game in a way. Especially pitching wise. It's like at different levels the hitters do different things. They have different tendencies, and it's kind of cool, and and I think I've started to really learn and understand, and I think this year is going to be a good year, because I think I kind of have grown in the baseball aspect, and I've also sometimes, a lot of times, I think like a lot of people, I try to do things on my own, and I was trying to do things on my own, and then I think this year I just just do my best and let God do the rest. So.
Well, I'm curious in your travels, because you go, obviously been a lot of different places in the United States. How do you run into Razorback fans very often? Like, I mean, is it something that you have interactions with them? Is it on social media? I don't know how active you are on social media, but do you have any kind of run-ins with them while you're on the road?
I'm not super active on social media. I'll get cards occasionally. I do occasionally see Razorback fans in some of the AAA parks. I think I ran into more of them when I was in the Texas League in AA, because I think it's a little bit closer to Fayetteville, but we're kind of spread out now. But I'll even get, I think 2 weeks ago, I got an Ole Miss fan that came up to me and wanted me to sign something for him. So I think it's just kind of like a random, but it's always cool. It always makes you feel good.
You told that Ole Miss fan to piss off, right? Like you're just like, no, man, I ain't doing this stuff.
No.
Hey, you're a bigger man than me. I can give you that, Kevin. You're a bigger man than me. But looking back at that 2021 season, man, I know it was a magical thing. You guys wanted to end it in Omaha. It didn't work out that way. But just when you think about that season, the Golden Spikes year, the dominance that you had, just what are some of the first things that you think of? Is it a certain game, series, moment? Just what really stands out to you when you first think of 2021?
There's a certain game. The certain game that stands out to me is the Florida game when when Charlie Welch hit that home run to put us ahead, and then we clinched the conference title. I think that's really the game that sticks out to me the most, and I think that season was weird for me just because everything that was happening, it felt surreal, and I think it's hard to describe for me. I kind of had a hard time with it because I felt undeserving. It just felt like a gift from God that I didn't deserve and I didn't really understand. Um, and maybe in a like a I kind of feel like I think differently, and I didn't really know how to put words to that. And I have a verse that kind of, if I can read, that I have pulled up, that I think describes it the best for me, is how I felt, because I think I was happier that, Arkansas got that, or the Arkansas fans got that, or like Van Horn got that, rather than me. But the verse is in Ecclesiastes, um, and it's Ecclesiastes 2:10, and it says, "And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil that I expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity and striving after the wind, and there was nothing gained under the sun." And pretty much what it's saying is, like, I did everything, and, you know, I held back no pleasure, on the baseball field. I think that could sound bad. But it didn't feel meaningless, but I felt empty still. And I felt like, and what that verse is saying is like everything is meaningless without God. And so I felt empty still. And I felt like God was showing me that, like, um, he can give you great gifts and he wants you to enjoy them. But, you know, without God, everything is meaningless. And I think that's like a sadder way, or a more depressing way to look at things. But that's kind of always how I've been. I've always kind of been like that. But I think it was like a really good learning tool that God used to show me, who he is. He gives great gifts, but he still wants our hearts.
Yeah, and I think too, like going into that year, you were a guy that had been at Arkansas for a while, and I think that's kind of always the question I've looked at it is, not to say it came out of nowhere, but just the way that it all transpired was just awesome. I mean, it felt like for Razorback fans, hey, as long as you got at least a 1-run lead going into the 7th inning, you've won the game. It was that confidence level. But going into the season, did you feel differently than previous years? I know you had developed and tried to get better as a player and everything, but did anything really stand out and feel different going into that season compared to the other seasons?
Honestly, no. And I think that's why it was so confusing to me, in that sense of like the verse I read. It just felt like a gift from God. But I think the only thing differently is, I kind of, I guess what Hobbs told me this offseason. Previously, I was pitching for my coaches. I was pitching for the team, and in that year, he was like, "You just started pitching for yourself," you know, in a way. Like, I stopped caring. I stopped caring. I gave it all to God, and that was really the difference. And you could say, it's a mindset switch, because you need conviction with your pitches, and if you don't care in a good way, you don't care. Um, then you have conviction and you don't have any doubt behind any pitches. And I think that was the difference. Is I just started, whatever happens, happens. And when you pitch with that kind of confidence, baseball goes your way.
Speaking with former Razorback Kevin Kopps here on Inside Arkansas Live. So Kevin, I'm curious. You brought the moment with the Florida game, I believe, in 2021. I just wanted to ask you really about two specific moments. One, speaking of Charlie Welch, that home run in the regionals there in Fayetteville, still may have been the loudest moment I've ever heard in Baum. I know you weren't on the mound for that, but at least at that time. But that was an awesome moment. Like, walk us through that, and also Arkansas is playing Tennessee this weekend, and I know that was a very intense series. But just kind of walk us through both of those moments in those games and what you remember about them from your perspective.
Charlie's regional home run?
Yeah.
Who was that against?
That was against Nebraska.
Nebraska.
It was a pass ball. The bases were loaded. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No. It's fine. You've probably thrown a few pitches and played in a few games.
Baseball games since then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I've watched that a lot on YouTube, actually.
Same.
I think I might have been in the tunnel when he did that. Just trying to, focus and lock in. Honestly, I don't remember where I was, but that was every time Charlie came up. I mean, I'm sure the fans remember. It just seemed like something was going to happen. And then when the pass ball came, it kind of gave you a little bit of relief. I think the game was tied when the pass ball happened, and then you could kind of tell. And I think this is where Van Horn is really good. Is and older players is you can kind of tell when a pitcher's not feeling comfortable or somebody's not feeling comfortable. But sometimes it's not obvious. But I felt like at that moment, I think it was, I could tell that the pitcher wasn't obvious. And I felt like Charlie was super confident and it was almost like everyone knew what was about to happen. And then it happened. And then we just got all the momentum back in our dugout. And it was almost like a movie. It was really strange. Really awesome. And then Tennessee, that one was weird. That one was weird. I don't really get into any of the yelling or the banner back and forth, but so I was kind of oblivious to it all, and I think I was just confused every time something happened. I didn't pay attention when we said something. But I did notice when they said something, and it was just kind of I don't know. I just didn't really know what was going on. We were getting yelled at. I didn't know why we were getting yelled at. I had to I don't know. It was fun, but I really enjoyed playing Tennessee. I felt like it felt like a rivalry, like an old rivalry. I know there's not a lot of baseball history rivalry at that moment, but it just felt like a rivalry had started, and it was awesome. The energy was awesome, and so it's always fun to have all those emotions in the game when you're playing.
Yeah, I think everybody was confused a little bit. At the end of the game, I seen Dave and Tony V going back and forth. I think that's what people are going to bring up. And, it's been squashed. They're good friends. But I think that's what was so confusing at the time. I don't know if it was that way for the whole team or if everybody was oblivious. But, seeing Dave get fired up, seeing all that happen at the end was funny, but also I don't know, just very odd. It seemed out of character and all of that. But, I guess that's sometimes how baseball is. But do you remember that? Were you confused? What was going on? Because it just seemed like it was a lot happening at once.
Yeah, I was confused at the moment. I guess I kind of thought about it as when you and your friend or your best friend, are yelling at each other. That's kind of what I saw it as. How guys will just kind of let it out. And that's kind of what it seemed like. And after the game, I was like, oh, I'm sure it's fine now. But then I think as far as the players' emotions, I felt how Van Horn always has the players' backs, whether we're right or wrong, he's gonna fight for us, and I think Tony's the same way. And so I think on each side of the players, them seeing their coaches do that, now the players wanted to back their coaches, the coaches will back them, and so I think that just fired everybody else up and just got the emotions really high.
Yeah, needless to say, they're still talking about it today. Like, they're going into this series, it's still getting talked about that moment. I don't even know if people remember what happened in the series, but they remember that moment from what happened there. But was Tony Vitello on the staff when you first came to Arkansas? I believe he was, right?
Yeah, he was. He was the hitting coach for maybe 2-3 years, maybe.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. So I know you were a pitcher and he was the hitting coach, but did you ever have any interactions with him as far as what he was like as a coach and the dynamic with him and Dave? And I guess Wes Johnson too, who's also at Georgia, is another coach of yours. You were surrounded by College World Series coaches, it seemed like.
Yeah, I had a plethora of coaches. Yeah, I had some interactions with Tony. I loved Tony. He was awesome at getting the guys fired up. He's been one of my favorite coaches I've ever had. Same with Wes. They're both very unique, and there was a lot to learn from both of them. And it was great to have both of them while I was there. Just taking what I could learn from them at the time, and then holding on to that, and like keeping it with me as I further my career.
Well, I know obviously, you're full of yourself and you lack humility across the board, Kevin. I mean, it's coming off so obvious right here, but on all honesty, you mentioned some of the coaches, but you talked about Wes Johnson, and then you go into Matt Hobbs, who you mentioned you still talk to and still kind of go through all that. Looking at both of them, but just in general, what did those guys do specifically for your game to get you ready for the pros and to get you to have that final year at Arkansas? What was kind of some of the things that stood out as far as development, as far as mentality? What were they really good at in helping mold your game?
I think they were put in my life at the perfect times by God. I think they're similar but different. Wes and Hobbs. Wes was more, he'd get you emotionally fired up. Wes, I had an issue of not feeling like I belonged for a while. I think Wes saw that in me. He called me up into his office in 17, and I didn't know why. And he sat me down and just said, "You belong here." And I was like, "What?" And he was just like, "You belong." And that was all he said. And then I left, and I felt like he was reading my emotions, or he could like read, like he was doing some psychology on me. Like, I felt like that was more of Wes's bread and butter. He's like, he knew he could read people really well and knew what they needed. Like if somebody needed to be yelled at, or if somebody needed to be told what he told me, he could tell, and he told me that, and it gave me confidence. And he helped me understand, why my pitches worked and stuff like that. And I felt like I needed that at that moment in my career. And then Hobbs was great. Also one of my favorite coaches. He was I felt like he was more mature, or for mature, I don't want to say mature players, but he helped me mature. He helped me learn to go ask questions. He helped me learn to learn things on my own, which I think is really important for pro ball, because you can't just be told what to do. You have to know why you're doing things. And Hobbs is really good at that. And he also, I remember, he'll kind of leave you alone too, but I remember, but he's always there if you need him. I remember at Tech, when we played Tech at the beginning of 2021, I didn't do very well. And I didn't know what to do, but I went up to Hobbs, and he kind of yelled at me pretty good. And I don't know, it snapped me into it. It snapped me back into it. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit.
No, you're good.
But he instilled confidence in me in a different way, in the way I needed it. And he kind of he kind of just helped me emotionally through that season and helped me to like stay on track and helped me to be calm. I think Wes was good at raising emotions. I think Hobbs was good at keeping you calm, because I think that's a really good aspect for pitchers, just to be calm and stoic.
Well, I feel like it's very interesting to get kind of that side of these coaches because you don't really get to see them a lot, some as fans or anybody that covering it. But before I let you get out of here, Kevin, really appreciate it. But about Dave Van Horn, I know you talked about your pitching coaches and guys, and Dave has had a stretch. I know everyone's talking about winning it all. Yes, he wants to win it all. He wants to win it all more than anybody. But the guy has won since 2018, 18 wins in the SEC ever since. I mean, it's just incredible, the consistency, players going in and out, great pitchers, and Hagen Smith here recently, you got Zach Root on the thing, but just Dave Van Horn, your thoughts on him, what he did for you, and the relationship you have, and how often or how much are you able to keep up with him and the Hogs and what they're doing nowadays? Because obviously you're playing, you're a little busy, but just how much are you able to keep up with everything going on with Dave and the boys?
I think Dave is an incredible mind that I think it's harder for me to understand even now. It's a little bit easier being outside of it. I think when you're in college, you're just so, at least me, I was so panicked. But I think it's hard to comprehend how amazing of a coach and mind he is, like I was saying. Especially like playing for him, it almost seems like normal. I think it's the same way when I guess a good comparison would be like, I'm in AAA and all these guys seem very like normal, like baseline baseball. And so like, because I'm in it, it's hard for me to, I guess, grasp how good some guys are or how good we are, or that sort of thing. So I think it's hard for me to grasp how amazing of a head coach Dave is sometimes, just because I see him like he was my coach. I looked up to him, and I see him more as a friend now, and so I get to keep up with him and talk to him in the off season. It's always nice to catch up with them, and I love following the Hogs. I don't get to really watch the games, but I keep up with them and see how they're doing, and I really want that last win for them. But yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody is holding out hope. Maybe this is the year. This could be the year. They got a good squad, and it's going to be a good weekend for that too, and everything. But hey, Kevin, man, we really appreciate you joining us. I know you're busy, but you're an all-time great and a lot of eyes of Razorback fans, so they always love to hear from you and catching up. And just know that there's a lot of Razorback fans that sometimes in the middle of June, all they think about is you. So just remember that that's always going to be a thing. But we appreciate you joining us, man. Good luck the rest of your pro career, and hopefully we're able to continue to follow you, man, and catch up with you later down the road.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.